What's up, y'all? Let's do this.
Oh, hi guys, welcome to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host, and today, guys, I want to talk about the Democrats' war on women and why not a single Democrat voted yesterday to protect women and girls' sports in this country. But before we go any further, guys, if you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, guys, can y'all please consider donating a cup of coffee for me? Because for the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Cumberland Farms, guys, you guys help keep this podcast show alive. You guys help me curate more stories, more topics like this to talk about. I do accept Bitcoin donations. I am on Locals, guys, if you guys want to support and sponsor this podcast show. If you guys love Nikki's World so much, seriously, guys, please hit that like, subscribe, please give me a review, good, bad, and the ugly. Also, guys, I do have affiliate links below. If you guys want to buy products through my affiliate links in the description below. And before we get this show on the road, literally, guys, if you guys love this episode and any of my other episodes on Nikki's World, please consider sharing this across all the social media platforms that are out there today. Ooh, wow, yeah. Sometimes those formalities are a mouthful, and by the time I'm done with those formalities, I'm pretty much out of breath, you know? So, as y'all know, I'm still looking for work, and right now I'm going through the interviews and all that, and then having my background being investigated, so that's the formalities of it, and I'm hoping one of them gives me a job offer and gives me a start date. So I am hoping, I am considering, and I am like praying that I can start a job. You know what I mean? It's been like a month and I've been out of work and it kind of sucks, you know? So that's why I do need the money, because I have an upcoming like a boudoir photo shoot and I need $250 to help pay for the boudoir photo shoot. If any of you guys are interested in donating like money to help me with my boudoir photo shoot, please send me a DM and then I'll send you my link to my Venmo or PayPal where you can donate, and then if there's a photo that you want me to pose, I will be willing to entertain that idea as well. All right? So, let's get the show on the road, guys. Let's get the show on the road. Okay? First off, this article from the Washington Examiner, okay? Titled, "Not a single House Democrat believes that women deserve a league of their own." Okay? Basically, the gist of this headline is this, and I'll read you this paragraph for verbatim. Despite overwhelming public opposition, the Biden administration is dead set on forcing girls and women at every level of education to compete against biological men. The attempt to do so is destined for a date in federal court, but at least the United States House of Representatives has just struck back by approving the Protection of Women and Young Girls in Sports Act. Simply put, guys, this is a federal law that the House of Representatives has passed protecting women and girls in sports at all levels of the education, whether elementary, middle, high school, and college level. It is essentially there to protect them from biological men who claim to be women from competing in their sports. Simply put, guys, this is a measure that will protect the rights of women and girls in sports. This is a measure that says that women and girls have a right to compete amongst themselves, and that no grown-ass man in a dress who claims to be a girl should be allowed to compete with them. Pretty much, I am totally in agreement with this. I support this bill, and I support this law. And coming from an intersex person like myself, I am in total agreement with this law. I am in total agreement with this bill and law saying that women and girls have a right to compete in their own sports teams and leagues. That men who claim to be women should never be allowed to compete in women in sports if the school takes in federal dollars. I totally agree with it. I am in support of the Republicans, especially Representative MTG, who basically agrees with it. And to me, it's simple like this. No man who claims to be a woman should never be allowed to compete in women's sports. Plain and simple. To me, it is cheating on a grand scale. It is cheating so much, guys, that you have grown-ass men who claim to be women barging their way into women's sports teams, women's athletics, and stealing everything away from women and girls who worked so hard to get to where they want to be. It is that simple. It is that simple. And the fact of the matter is that the entire House Democrats voted against it. Because let's put it to you this way, the entire House Democrats is in bed with grown-ass men who claim to be women, and they're basically in bed with the transgender cult and the transgender terrorist groups. That is who the Democrat Party supports. Pretty much, guys. And to me, it just goes to show that the Democrat Party in this country does not care about biological women. They don't even care about like women and girls. All they care about is a grown-ass man in a dress with a 6-inch dick who thinks he's a girl. That's who the Democrats care about more. Okay? They don't care about like the college woman who's competing in, say, lacrosse or track and field, that she has to worry if the competitor next to her is a grown-ass man who looks like a man, like talks like a man, has man hands, but claims to be a woman. Trust me, I am in support of the law. Even though I've seen intersex groups who are dead set against it, but in hindsight, reality, those groups who claim to be intersex are basically nothing more than a front for the transgender group. And in reality, many of these so-called intersex groups are really transgender groups in fucking disguise. Yeah, pretty much. And then you look at this one article, guys, from the town hall. 203 Democrats vote against protecting women in sports. Basically, it's like this: 203 Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives voted against protecting women and girls. They have basically voted against that. And you can clearly see in the town hall. And I'm going to link that article in the description, guys, so you can see which Democrat in your home state who voted against protecting your daughter or your niece, your aunt, or your mother from competing against a grown-ass man who thinks he's a woman. I kid you not, okay? I kid you not, because you know why? It just goes to show that Democrats do not care about women and girls. They only care about a grown-ass man who has, what, a 6-inch dick, who thinks he's a girl, who thinks that he can compete in women's sports and steal everything from women's sports. That's who the Democrat Party supports. That's their platform. That's their ideology. That's their base. That's their core voters. The less than 1%. Pretty much. And this is why you have bills like this coming up in Congress and coming up at the state level, because we all know that the transgender cult and the transgender terrorists own the Democrat Party. So they basically are using the Democrats to push, bully, and intimidate anyone who doesn't allow a grown-ass man in a women's locker room, women's bathrooms, women's sports teams, or women's prisons. Pretty much, that is what the Democrats. That's what the Democrat Party is all about, and that's who the Democrat Party supports in this country. Pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, that's who the Democrats support in this country. They essentially support grown-ass men who think that they're women. They pretty much do. And it's a foregone conclusion, guys. It pretty much is. Because I'll tell you this, even the Daily Wire, 0 Democrats vote for a House bill to protect women's sports. That says a lot right there. If you had no Democrats supporting this bill, it just goes to show that Democrats in this country do not care about your mother, your daughter, your aunt, or your niece. They don't care, any of them. All they care about is a grown-ass man who thinks he's a girl, who has, what, a 6-inch dick in a Y chromosome, but's wearing a dress and probably having caked on makeup. Pretty much. That's who the Democrats support. And the fact of the matter is that we've gotten to a point where we need bills like this because you have dudes who are stealing everything away from women. Yeah, you have dudes who claim to be women stealing everything away from hardworking women. And the fact of the matter is that according to the left, And according to Democrats, that they think that women's sports is for mediocre male athletes or failed men who couldn't compete and beat a man in the same sport. Yeah. And then the irony of all this, many of the Democrats who voted against it said, "Oh, it's discriminatory. Oh, it's hateful. It is bigoted. It is transphobic and all this shit." Yeah. It is basically mind-blowing. It is, say the least. And then you have this one article, okay? And then you have this one article from like the Daily Signal. And I'll read you the headline. Win for the patriarchy. Not one Democrat voted to protect like girls in sports. They didn't. They not a single fucking Democrat voted to protect like girls and women's sports. Now, if it was their mother competing, oh man, I'll bet you within the fucking 5 seconds, these Democrats would be voting to protect women's sports. If they found out that their mom was competing and then all of a sudden finds out that a grown-ass man is competing against their mom. Trust me, if that happened, Democrats would shut it down in less than 5 seconds. You would see headlines going, "Oh, Democrats voted to protect girls and women's sports." You would see that. But what we're seeing now is like this. Bills like this is what's needed, you know. But I will say this. It did pass the House. But the sad thing is, the Senate is always going to be a question mark because the Senate is a 50-50 split Senate, but you have two independents or two what people are led to believe are Democrats, but you have two independents, which are Christian Sinema and Joe Manchin. So to get this to pass with a majority is that you would have to get, the Republicans would have to get basically about, if you got Sinema and Manchin, you'd have to get at least about 5, I'm going to say a good comfortable, 10 senators to agree with the Republican Senate. Get that, you can pass this bill no problem at the Senate level. But we all know Joe Biden, who is the Pino, which is the president in name only, because he's not the real president, in my opinion, he's more than likely going to veto the bill, and it's going to get sent all the way back to the House, get re-voted again with the same voting record where majority of Republicans support it, and then the lonely Democrats will give their objection. And then it'll get passed, and it's the same thing again in the Senate. Because you got to remember, in order to override the veto, you do need 2/3 of both House and the Senate to override the president. So essentially, guys, any bill like this, we wouldn't have to have basically a veto-proof majority in both houses. So in order for this to pass, ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that we need to have a veto-proof majority. And if we don't have a veto-proof majority, ladies and gentlemen, there is no fucking way this bill is ever going to pass. It's going to probably be dead on arrival at the Senate, no matter how hard you pass it at the House level, okay? Getting it at the House level is one thing, folks, but getting it past the Senate level, and this is why, ladies and gentlemen, elections do matter. And they do matter severely, because I'm going to tell you why. Getting bills passed at the House is one thing, but getting it passed at the Senate is a whole other fucking story. Because you got to remember, look at it this way. House of Representative members are in for what, 2 years? Senators are in for 6 years. So who is in the Senate is what we have to worry about more than who is in the House. That's why elections matter. And that's why votes matter. And this is what Republicans need to get their fucking collective asses together and realize this, is that if you control the Senate and basically get a majority in the House, no matter what you do, no matter like what bills you propose, if the Pino's gonna veto it, we can override it with a simple majority vote. It's as simple as that. It is. And this is why elections matter, guys. Elections really fucking matter. Okay? But anyway, I wanna talk about this other article, okay, guys? I want to talk about this other article from the Washington Times, okay? And the headline is this: Biden to hike payments for good credit home buyers to subsidize high-risk mortgages. Essentially, guys, I'm going to say this bluntly and clearly. It is the Clinton-era Fannie and Freddie Mae housing crisis all over again, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fannie and Freddie Mae housing bubble all over again. And if you don't know what that means, guys, I'm going to give you a little history lesson here. During the 1990s, which most of the leftists weren't alive back then, during the 1990s, during the Clinton era, okay, when Bill Clinton was in the White House, okay, Bill Clinton and his Democrats strong-armed and bullied the banks to give out home loans to people who had risky, low credit scores, who had no business of buying a home or buying a mortgage. But the Clintons basically strong-armed, bullied, intimidated, and even threatened the banks to say, hey, if you don't give home loans to these people, we're going to run you out of the country. So, to stay in good graces with the Clintons and hope they don't get Clinton, hope they don't have to end up on Hillary's list, they basically caved in and gave mortgages to people who basically couldn't get, who basically shouldn't get it in the first place. So now, Joe Biden and his Democrats and his far left communist Democrats are doing it all over again. Yeah. And the first paragraph of this is like this: home buyers with good credit score will soon encounter a costly surprise. A new federal rule forcing them to pay higher mortgage rates and fees to subsidize people with risky credit ratings who are also in the market to buy a home. So essentially, it's like this, guys. Let's say you had a good credit score, okay? And your credit score is like, let's give a good number. Say 750, 800, okay? Now, you go to your bank and your real estate agent and you say, hey, I'm interested in buying a home and my credit score is 750 to 800 and my bank gave me an approval for a mortgage of $400,000. And they'll say, oh yeah, great. But now they're saying, well, that $400,000 mortgage is gonna wind up being like $500,000 or $600,000. Reason being, it's because the federal government is saying you have to pay these extra fees to help subsidize your neighbor who lives in a rundown apartment, who couldn't get a mortgage to buy a home. So now you're going to help pay for his mortgage on top of your mortgage. You see how that's grand? You see how the federal government wants to impose socialism on you? This is another avenue that leftist Democrats want to do to you. This is their way of sticking it back to the people who voted for Donald Trump. This is another way. And then the article even goes like this. And I'll read you the paragraph for verbatim. Mortgage industry specialists say home buyers with a credit score of 680 or higher will pay, for example, about $40 per month or more on a home loan of $400,000. Home buyers who make down payments of 15% or 20% will get socked with the largest fees. You see what that means? Basically, if you wanted to buy a home, okay, and your credit score is like a 680 like that, and having that kind of credit score means no bank will ever give you a home loan to buy a home. So, what this happens is that, and this is quoting from the article, the changes do not make sense. Penalizing borrowers with larger down payments and credit scores will not go over well. Basically, it's like this. People who work their ass off day in and day out, okay? People who like basically did all the hard work, okay? Who basically every single day work their butt off to get to where they want to be in life. All of a sudden, the federal government comes in and say, sorry, your hard work is now going to this person who didn't do all the hard work and is now getting the same thing that you did. So essentially is this. People who didn't work their ass off, who didn't save their money to be able to put a down payment on a mortgage or to be able to buy a home, are now going to be able to buy a home, all because Joe Biden and his fucked up socialist communist Democrats are punishing the people who work their ass off and stealing everything that they worked their ass off for and handing it to people who didn't work their ass off. Simply put, guys, this is basically the analogy of robbing Peter to pay for Paul. This is essentially robbing hardworking people to pay for the lazy assholes who don't work their ass off, who don't basically produce. That's what it is, guys. That's essentially what it is. And it's essentially what's happening here. What's happening here is that in this country right now, in the United States of America, well, as I know it, hard-working people are being punished and being silenced so that the lazy people don't feel like they're inferior. That's what's happening here in this country. What's happening here in this country is that people like you and me who work our asses off, who produce, who don't take a government handout, are being punished. And the people who sit their ass and are lazy motherfuckers are rewarded. Simply put, guys, being lazy in this corrupt regime is rewarded. Working your ass off you're being punished. That's simply put. We're living in a bizarro land where people who work their ass off, who are hardworking, law-abiding citizens, are being punished. Where the people who are lazy son of a bitches are being rewarded, are being given handouts, are given everything, including, oh, you don't work, you don't produce. Oh, here's a mortgage to help you buy the home, courtesy of your neighbor. That's what's really going on. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats reward laziness and punish the hardworking people. That's why it boggles my mind. It's like these are the Democrats who basically reward people who are lazy fuckers and basically punish the hardworking people. That's what it is. And that's what it is. And then basically, guys, I want to talk about this other article, okay? From the same place, the Washington Examiner. College rowdies deserve to do the perp walk. Basically, it's like this. The article says like this. Tear gas, rubber bullets, expulsions, arrests, prosecutions, and prison time. Authorities should use whatever lawful methods are necessary to stop low-life rowdies from shutting down, or using violence at college speaking events. I totally agree. You have these leftist violent thugs from BLM and Antifa who basically shut down, or riot, protest, loot, and burn down college campuses, all because they don't like someone's opinion, viewpoints, and beliefs. Yeah, to me, these people should be fucking arrested. These people should be, if these leftist thugs, the second they start to riot, cops should be throwing tear gas, rubber bullets at them. Should be basically taking nightsticks, baiting them to a bloody pulp, arresting them, throwing them in prison, and on top of that, revoking their student loan. Basically taking all their student loans, student aids, and Pell Grant. Saying like this, if you riot, protest, loot, burn, and cause violence, not only are you getting arrested, not only are you doing prison time, but your access to federal student loans and federal grants, you will never get that again. You'll be banned from it. You'll be banned permanently. And to me, I believe the people who cause all these riots, like say at the more recent one at the University of Pittsburgh, I say these people should be arrested, should be thrown in prison, given the mandatory minimum. I'm going to say like this, 10 years. 10 years mandatory minimum in prison. Okay? And then at the same time while they're in prison, mandatory hard labor. That means they work the fields. They work wherever the prison wants them. And if they don't like it, they can go in solitary confinement and sit in a hole for as long as I care. You see what I mean? The problem is a lot of these schools are catering to these violent leftist thugs. Instead, what they should be doing is like this: expelling them, having them arrested, have them have a criminal record, a criminal conviction. Yeah, because I'm telling you right now, these thugs that riot, loot, burn, protest, shout down, and shut down free speech, these people should be arrested immediately. Cops, law enforcement shouldn't just be nice to these people. Law enforcement should be like this: take the handcuffs, put them in handcuffs, throw them in the wagon, throw them in the county jail, make them sit in the county jail. Say like this: Say like this: if the sheriff of the county jail says no bail, you're sitting in there until your court date. I don't care. Make them sit in a cold, hard prison cell. Make them hear the doors slam in. Make them actually live their ideas in the prison. Let's see how they like it when they're promoting BLM social justice shit in prison. Watch how fast the inmates put them down real fast. Watch how fast the inmates shut them up in a fucking hurry. Because I'm telling you right now, people are going to get to a point where if law enforcement doesn't do anything to stop these thugs from shutting down, and using violence, I'm going to say this on the podcast show. One of these days, it's going to take people to rise up and put them down themselves. Local citizenry is probably going to rise up and say to these leftist thugs, we had enough of your bullshit. Guess what? We're taking our belts off and we're going to whip your motherfucking ass all the way back to your room. It may wind up being like that. It may wind up being like that because you know why? People are going to get sick and tired of it. People are going to get sick and tired of it. Because I'm telling you, when these people shut down people's freedom of speech rights, right to speak freely, all because they don't like their political opinions and viewpoints, I'm telling you, push comes to shove, when the left loves to shut people down for their opinions and viewpoints, but I'm telling you, when the other side has had enough, and when they resort to fists, baseball bats, to like whatever, and the left starts crying, crying and saying, "Oh, the right's hitting us, the right's assaulting us." Well, we're gonna say like this: you fucking started it in the first place. If you stop acting like an immature fucking idiot and stop acting like an immature fucking asshole and start being a respectable person and start learning to listen and hear both sides without resorting to violence, then we would be more civilized. But now you got people acting like fucking idiots and fucking jerks like this. I'm telling you, make prison great again for these leftist thugs. Make hard labor great again for these leftist thugs. Make them. That's why I go with this. Put them on the chain gang. Yeah, humiliate them in prison. Make them work the dirtiest job that an inmate can do. Make them work the chain gang under an armed guard. And if they refuse, throw them in solitary for 6 months. Throw them in solitary. Let them find out how fast the real world hits them. Let them find out, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and I'm telling you, man, it's going to happen. It is. But believe me, guys, believe me. The way I see it, you have like conservatives who want to be able to come on college campuses just to be able to express their viewpoints and just to be able to lecture their opinion. But then you have far left radicals who shut down their free speech rights. And then saying, oh, we're shutting down fascism and all this. Well, you know what? You're just having a temper tantrum because you're a fucking little brat who basically, in my opinion, guys, is acting more like an immature kid because you know why? You can't get your way, and at the same time, you want to act like you're all high and mighty and all this shit. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is, folks. Is that you have leftists who want to shut down, like, if a conservative speaks on their campus, they want to shut them down because they don't like the fact that they have a right to speak freely. That's all it is. That's all it is, folks. And sorry about that if you heard that from my watch. Okay, I apologize for that. But that's all it is, guys. To me, these college kids that love to shut down freedom of speech, that love to silence, threaten, shut down, in my opinion, law enforcement should just come right behind them, thump their heads, throw them in handcuffs, and then throw them in prison and give them the mandatory minimum of 10 years. Make them stay in prison for 10 years. Because I'll tell you right now, once they start to realize that, oh, you can't be a leftist like this anymore, it'll be like this. Try it in prison. Watch how fast the guards and the inmates put them down. Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, guys, before we end the show for today, I want to talk about this article from Post Millennial. There is a Tim, a trans-identified male terrorist, who says people must arm up to fight anyone who stops men from entering women's bathrooms. Okay? Basically, the article from the Post Millennial is this. A trans-identified male issued a threatening warning on TikTok and encouraged the trans terrorist community to take up arms and engage in deadly acts of violence if someone were to prevent them from using the women's bathrooms. To me, ladies and gentlemen, that is the definition of terrorism right there. That is terrorism. That is domestic terrorism right there. And then this Tim, trans-identified male, said like this: I dare you to try to stop me from using the women's bathroom. It'll be the last mistake you'll ever make. That's terrorism. Threatening women who stand up and say you can't use the women's bathroom and threatening harm to them, that's terrorism. That is terrorism. And this grown-ass man who is saying that his fellow trans terrorists should arm up and fight their way into women's bathrooms, including assaulting them or shooting them. To me, where the fuck is law enforcement on this? Where the fuck is law enforcement in this country on this? It's pretty clear this is terrorism. Okay, this is terrorism to its 10th degree. It is. And then you have this grown-ass man saying that saying to women, I dare you to try to stop me from going into the women's bathroom. He's threatening women. That is terrorism. And he's saying to his trans terrorists to arm up. That is terrorism. That is terrorism to the 10th degree. This guy literally should be arrested just for making terroristic threats to women. That alone should warrant the local, county, state, and even the feds to break into his damn door. It is. To me, I go like this. I hope to God the FBI is monitoring this guy. I hope to God that the FBI is watching him, because he could be another Nashville in the making. Yeah, he could be. But this is why I have often said like this. women should not be afraid to use the women's bathrooms. Okay? Women should not have to go to a bathroom in fear. But then you got these grown ass men who's threatening women that if they stop him from using the bathroom, that'll be their last thing. That's violence. That's domestic terrorism. That is domestic terrorism, no matter how you fucking call it. And I've said this, and I said this one comment on social media. I said it this. Imagine if that was a Muslim or radical Muslim who said that on social media. How fast would you fucking think how fast do you think if the local, county, state, or federal law enforcement got wind of it and broke down his door, dragged him into a federal prison cell? How fast do you think that would happen? If it was a Muslim or a radical Muslim that said that. But knowing this dude is a trans-identified male terrorist, he's protected by the Democrats, probably the feds won't do nothing about it. It'll probably wind up being the local, county, and state law enforcement doing something about it. It just goes to show we live in a two-tier justice system. We do. If you're a TIM, if you're a trans-identified male, or TIF, a trans-identified female who makes violent threats to people, oh, you're protected. But if you're a Muslim or a radical Muslim or a radical Christian who does the same thing, shit, you get law enforcement at your doorstep within less than half a second. Yeah. It just goes to show, man, these trans terrorists, man, law enforcement needs to start cracking down on these people. Law enforcement needs to literally have them on their fucking radar. Pretty much, these people should not be allowed in society at all. These people should be in some mental institution or mental prison, in some wing of a prison where they're locked away from society. If they're making these violent threats to people, these people shouldn't be allowed in society. And in my opinion, and this is my opinion here, guys, women should get a concealed carry pistol permit, or if you live in a constitutional carry state, carry a gun. Because if you got dudes like this who are threatening you, saying that, oh, if you stop me from using the women's bathroom, it'll be the last thing. This is why women carry guns. Because dudes like this who threaten women that stop him from using the women's bathroom, because let me put it to you this way, you say you're a girl, you say you're a woman, but then you talk like a man, and then you threaten like a man. To me, you ain't no woman. You're just a mentally ill, violent dude in a dress. Okay? That's basically what you are. You're basically nothing more than a mentally ill dude in a dress who has a propensity for violence against women because women don't want you using their bathroom. Tell you this much, man. If I were women, that would be all the ammunition I would need to get a pistol permit. But if you live in a state that has constitutional carry, okay, which is what they call Vermont carry, I would get a pistol. Because if dudes like this are gonna threaten and intimidate you, and because you don't want them in their bathroom, having that pistol would make these dudes think twice. Would make these dudes think long and hard. And to me, since he posted this, and this Tim posted this on on social media, it should be immediately be flagged by law enforcement. Law enforcement, whether at the local, county, or state level, should be basically breaking into his house in less than 2 seconds, in my opinion. To me, we live in an era now where you have men in dresses who are threatening women every day just to be able to exist. Just because the fact that they're not women, and the fact that these are fetish men, and these are violent men in dresses. Yeah. And then the ironic thing is, the left wants to take away our gun rights, but then they want to give gun rights to the mentally ill trans cult terrorists. Just goes to show we have a fucked up country. You know what I mean? Our country's fucked up because we have lunatic left running the country, and the lunatic left thinks that a man in a dress has more rights than biological women. Pretty much, guys. Pretty much. But in any case, guys, that was a good show for today. That was really, really a good show. That was, man. That was. Yeah. But I do have to say it's like this. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Have fun. Stay safe. Stay sane out there. Okay? So, don't do anything stupid because Judge is gone on the weekend and you won't be able to see him until Monday morning. Okay? So, I thank you guys for listening to Nikki's World. I'm Nikki, your host. I'll see y'all soon. Bye for now. You just listened to an episode of Nikki's World. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.